Christopher Nolan's Inception recently had its 14th anniversary. Still, almost a decade and a half later now, it remains as Christopher Nolan's best film in my opinion, and my favorite movie of all time. So today, we're discussing why I think Inception is still the very best of Nolan's filmography. But before we dive in, make sure you click that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you haven't done so already. We all know Christopher Nolan is highly regarded as a top-tier director in Hollywood. For many movie buffs, he may even be considered the greatest director in history. From his early low-budget hit Memento, to his transcendent superhero flick The Dark Knight, to what many have called his magnum opus Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan rarely disappoints audiences. Unless you're a hater of these films. Simply put, Nolan has become known as the guy for his epic productions, giving you all the reasons you need to see movies on the biggest screen possible. And as his filmography continues to grow, it gets more and more difficult to pick a favorite with each passing year. Except when it comes to me. Ever since I first saw Inception, I fell in love. It's the film responsible for my passion of movies. You know it's an impressive film too, with how much of an impact it's made on my life, despite never having seen it in theaters. You'd think with how much I love Inception to this day, I absolutely would have seen it in cinemas when it released in 2010. Sadly though, I still haven't caught a screening whenever a theater near me randomly puts it on for a few days. But hopefully soon. Nonetheless, that just shows how good Inception is. A movie like this is meant to be seen in theaters, and yet it's my favorite film while never watching the movie in that format. Only ever on my computer and home TV all these years. Imagine how much more I would love Inception if I had initially seen it in IMAX. So why do I love Inception as much as I do? And why do I think it remains as the best movie Nolan has ever rolled out? First and foremost, let's talk about runtime. This is what can make or break your film. Sometimes movies are too short, and if provided a longer runtime, it could greatly help with character development. Look at Rogue One for instance. The 2 hours are just not enough in my opinion to flesh out a story of this magnitude. If given an extra half hour, I may have cared about Rogue One's characters. On the other hand, sometimes movies are way too long. For example, I was discouraged from seeing Kevin Costner's Horizon Part 1 a few weeks ago. I did however see Killers of the Flower Moon simply because of Scorsese, but he could have easily cut out an hour of that film, and the pacing would have benefited big time. When I look at Inception from start to finish though, it has the perfect runtime. I've stated this on several occasions, but that's because it's true. The 2 hour and 30-minute runtime is what's ideal for an IMAX epic like this. If cut any shorter, Dom's character arc wouldn't feel earned, and the final hour wouldn't have that grandiose aura. But if any longer, the film would likely feel overblown and repetitive. The decision to keep this to exactly 2 hours and 28 minutes was the best decision Nolan could have made. I can say the same thing about The Dark Knight. If you ask me, that's the only movie in Nolan's filmography in competition with Inception for his all-time best. And one of the reasons for that is its perfect length. Maybe I would have liked Dunkirk more if they added an extra 45 minutes. But instead, at a short length of 1 hour and 46 minutes, unsurprisingly, the characters are far from fleshed out. Meanwhile, Oppenheimer is a Nolan film that feels too long. Trim roughly 30 minutes off, and you have yourself a better movie from my perspective. Personally, I think Tenet could have been part of the best of Nolan conversation too, if only it didn't require multiple viewings in order to understand it. Oh, and of course Interstellar as well, but it's a tad too long. So Inception greatly benefited from getting that idealistic duration, but what Inception also has going for it is the amount of memorable moments included. You have the dramatic opening where you're challenged to put the pieces together, followed by this iconic dream sequence, and the incredible chase scene through Mombasa. I also love the planning montage. It's a very well thought out sequence and precisely detailed by Nolan, breaking down every little bit of how this job is going to work. From there, we get one of the greatest sequences of all time. A whole hour dedicated to the act of Inception being performed on Cillian Murphy's Fisher. I love all the elements here. Too bad movies don't have climaxes this long anymore. In comparison, I think some of Nolan's other movies lack various moments like these that keep me engaged, such as The Prestige. Really good movie, but nothing comes to mind as super memorable moment-wise. And as far as Oppenheimer goes, outside of the bomb sequence, nothing pops up as mesmerizing. Again, it's mainly The Dark Knight here that competes with Inception for most memorable moments of Nolan's filmography, along with Interstellar. But let's now talk about maybe Inception's most memorable moment of all, the last 4 minutes, what I consider Nolan's finest ending, and one of the greatest endings of all time. I know some people are upset it's ambiguous and doesn't give you an exact answer, but that's why I'm such a fan. Every one of Nolan's other movies has a definitive ending. It's never left up to your own interpretation, except in Inception. As someone who prefers ambiguous endings in many cases, Inception's final shot just clicked with me. That doesn't mean I don't like Nolan's other endings. I think they're all executed in epic fashion, but the one that stands out to me most is Inception's, followed by The Dark Knight. Now I know I keep bringing up The Dark Knight, and you may be wondering, Sven, why do you prefer Inception over The Dark Knight? Well, it comes down to just that, preference. A creative movie about dreams is right up my alley. Superheroes, not so much. Both are incredible films, but if you take away Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight, how great is that movie still? It's considerably better than Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises. Without Ledger though, I'm not sure if that would still be the case. Whereas you can replace anyone from Inception with another actor, and it remains a fantastic film. Other big talking points worth mentioning from Inception is the music, inventive, detailed script, and cast. With all of these elements combined in one movie, you get Christopher Nolan's best film. So that's why I think Inception is still Christopher Nolan's best movie. But do you agree with this statement? If so, tell me what you love about Inception. And if not, let me know what your favorite Nolan movie is and why. Anyway, thank you all so much as always for watching this video essay. Again, if you haven't done so already, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and click that subscribe button. I'll catch you guys later this week for some Twisters talk. Looking forward to that. See everyone then.